You know, this movie only had a major resonance years later when the lead actor finally admitted he was homosexual and he had HIV infection, which killed him with AIDS. Rock Hudson in Seconds is probably the most dramatic performance of his career and one of the most bizarre of the decade. Now, this 1966 American psychological horror movie, directed by John Frankenheimer and starring Hudson, also features Salome Jens, John Randolph, and Will Geer in a very cryptic performance. The film tells the story of a middle aged New York banker who, disillusioned with his life, contacts an agency known as The Company, which specializes in providing rebirths under new identities and appearances altered by plastic surgery. The screenplay by Louis John Carlino was based on a 63 novel of the same title by David Elvey. Filmed in New York and Malibu in 1965, Seconds was entered in the 66 Cannes Film Festival and released by Paramount. The cinematography, quite strong in black and white, by James Wong Howe, was nominated for Academy Award. In 2015, the United States Library of Congress selected the film for preservation in the National Film Registry, finding it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Now, edited by David Newhouse and Ferris Webster, music by Jerry Goldsmith, great score. Production companies included Joel Productions, John Frankenheimer Productions, Gibraltar, released by Paramount. Didn't really do too well at the box office, barely made it back its $2.5 million budget. Now, in this one, Arthur Hamilton is a middle aged banking executive in New York who, despite his successes on a professional level, remains profoundly unfulfilled. His love for his wife Emily has dwindled, and he seldom sees his own child, now grown. Arthur is approached by a stranger who gives him an address. Later that day, he receives a call from Charlie, his school friend from Princeton, whom he believed for many years to be dead. Charlie recounts personal anecdotes that only he could know. Charlie informs Arthur he must go to the address provided and that the company will save him from his empty life. Arthur takes up Charlie's proposition and travels to the address, then is redirected through a circuitous series of addresses. At one location, he is drugged and tries to leave the complex. He wanders around until finding himself in a vulnerable woman's bedroom, and in his drugged state, he seemingly sexually assaults her. After waking, Arthur is informed by the company, Mr. Ruby, that their service cost is $30,000. It will fake his death in a hotel fire using an anonymous cadaver. Then they will reshape his appearance and provide a fresh start. When Arthur is unsure, an older man, head of the company, shows Arthur a film of the prior stage assault, ostensibly to make his decision easier. After considering the emptiness in his life, Arthur reluctantly accepts. He undergoes extensive procedures by Dr. Innes that transform not only his facial features, but his vocal cords, teeth, and even fingerprints. After a lengthy healing period, the younger-looking Arthur is conferred the identity Tony Wilson. Tony is relocated by the company into a beachside community in California. He attempts to assimilate in his new life, in which he is able to live as an artist, a career he had always aspired to, though he soon finds himself growing restless. While walking the beach one day, Tony encounters Nora. The two develop a swift attraction, and Nora recounts how she came to leave her former life behind. When Tony accompanies Nora to a Diocesan team party in Santa Barbara, there the revelers dance, sing, and stomp grapes in a large trough, and after some initial discomfort, Tony finally begins to enjoy himself. Now, this scene is kind of weird because it almost comes across as, not say an orgy scene, but the ability for Rock Hudson to play two different characters in life and in real life. There's a lot of parallels here. The subtext hasn't been really talked about, but I watched this knowing that Rock Hudson was in a closet that many years. I saw Seconds after he died, and I saw a lot of himself in the movie, not in the movie, if that makes any sense. Now, when Tony and Nora hold a stochastic party for neighbors, Tony gets drunk over the course of the night and begins to speak openly about his former identity. The male guests eventually remove Tony to a bedroom where he learns they are also reborns. Now, Tony receives a phone call from Charlie, who warns him that he has put himself in danger by violating the company's rules. Charlie also reveals that Nora is an employee of the company who covertly helps new reborns to a smooth transition. Now, disenchanted by his new contrived life, Tony defiantly returns to New York. He arranges a meeting with Emily at his former home, claiming he was once a friend of Arthur's. Emily shares that she felt Arthur was emotionally disconnected from his life, and it was a constant state of longing that she could not understand. After the meeting, a melancholic Tony is met by associates of the company and requests that he give him a different identity. They agree to do so, but only if he can provide them with another referral to the company. Returning to the company's headquarters, Tony's placed in a waiting room with various other men, including his friend Charlie, all of whom have asked to undergo another rebirth. And later, Charlie is chosen and escorted from the waiting room. Frustrated at the unknown amount of time the men have been waiting to be chosen, and being able to think of anyone he can refer to the company, Arthur angrily demands that a procedure be performed without further delay. Now, during the night, the owner of the company discusses with Tony Arthur his original purpose for founding the organization and assures him that the issues he's brought up will be looked into. As he's wheeled in the operating room, Dr. Morris gives him last rites. As Dr. Innes sedates him, he tells Arthur that he's to be killed, with his body to be staged as the corpse for a new client to be reborn. Never ask for what you need or don't need, you might get it. A very strong performance by Jeff Corey as Dr. Ruby as well has to be referred. And of course, one of my favorite actors of all time, who I met at Framingham Megafest a few years ago, Richard Anderson, gave a very, very dynamite performance as Dr. Innes. And of course, the great Murray Hamilton plays Charlie. The supporting cast here is just tremendous. Now, in the film The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, the psychoanalytical philosopher Slavoj Žižek discusses the film as an example of what happens when desires are fulfilled. Now, Frankenheimer completed several successful films before his involvement with the project, namely The Big Three, of course, Birdman of Alcatraz, The Manchurian Candidate, and 7 Days in May. These last two films together with second, sometimes referred as Frankenheimer's Paranoia trilogy. Now, for the central role of Tony, Frankenheimer had sought Kirk Douglas, whose company Joel Productions was producing the film. When Douglas was unavailable due to other commitments, Frankenstein offered a role to get this, Laurence Olivier. After reading the screenplay, Olivier agreed to take the part. Paramount Pictures objected to casting, believing that Oliver Olivier was not a big enough star at the time. Hudson was cast in the feature despite attempts by friends and colleagues to dissuade him. He wanted to expand his range, feeling that he'd been typecast because of his work in numerous romantic comedies, and especially with Doris Day. He was one of the nicest guys I've ever met, Frankenheimer recounts. He really wanted to do this picture, but he would only do it as the second character. He didn't think he could handle the other character. I think his performance is quite strong. And like I said, if we knew back then, if he was out of the closet, he probably would have been nominated. Now, principal photography of Seconds began in June '65 with a budget of $2.5 million. Filming primarily occurred in Malibu, where much of the film is set, with additional photography occurring in Scarsdale, New York, where the first act of the film takes place, as well as New York City. In order to successfully shoot a transition sequence in Grand Central Station, Frankenheimer hired a Playboy bunny to pose as an actress, filming a scene during which she stripped down into a bikini in the terminal. This distracted onlookers, allowing Frankenheimer to successfully capture the footage he needed without interruption. The Dionysian-themed party sequence was shot on location with a handheld camera in Santa Barbara during an annual wine festival held there. Strange scene, that's all I can say. Now, the director of photography with Seconds was Howe, who pioneered novel techniques in black and white cinematography and whose career spanned nearly 5 decades. While shooting the sequence inside the company headquarters, which were constructed on the Paramount lot, Howe employed an innovative system featuring complete lighting of sets for close-ups, long shots, etc., sans separate setups, plus the use of Selenge sets. Filming was completed in August '65. In Frankenheimer's commentary on the DVD, he notes, an actual rhinoplasty operation was filmed to provide shots for inclusion in the depiction of Hamilton's plastic surgery. Frankenheimer shot some of the footage after the cameraman fainted. The scenes in Wilson's Malibu Beach house were filmed in Frankenheimer's home. Now, the opening titles of the film were designed by Saul Bass, using Helvetia set in white over optically warped black and white motion picture photography. During the editing, Frankenheimer chose to excise the scene in which Arthur meets with his daughter Callie after his transformation into Tony. Frankenheimer's wife, Evans, portrayed Arthur's daughter in the scene. Frankenheimer later lamented the decision to remove the scene from the movie, suggesting that it made the second act weaker. Additionally, a sequence in which Arthur encounters a father and his son daughter on the beach was removed from the final cut. A brief portion appears as the film's final shot, which Arthur recounts as he dies. Louis John Carlino, the film's screenwriter, confirmed this in a 1997 interview. That refers to a previous scene that was also cut. Hudson encounters the father and his young daughter on the beach. It's the key scene for me. Without it, the last image doesn't make sense. Well, the movie itself, you got to watch it from start to finish. It's not a movie you can go back to. And for a lot of people, the whole movie didn't make any sense. Saying the fact is that why would Rock Hudson be in a movie like this? Because it was just totally bizarre. Because Rock Hudson was known for action, romance, not for a Frankenheimer-style movie. Now, when Seconds premiered at the 66 Cannes Film Festival, it ran in competition for the Palme d'Or. The film, unfortunately, was not well received by the audience, and its screening ended with boos of disapproval. Now, the film premiered in the States on October 5th, 1966, in New York, and opened in LA the following month on November 9th, 66. Now, Paramount, the American distributor of the film, demanded that Frankenheimer cut 7 minutes of film for his release in the States. The footage that was ultimately excised for the American theatrical release consisted of the grape-stomping sequence that occurs at the party Arthur attends with Nora. The sequence, which features full frontal nudity from the various extras, was deemed too controversial by the studio. Frankenheimer recalled. The Catholic Church objected to the nudity, so it was cut, but it made the grape-stomping seem like an orgy. That was not my intention. It was supposed to be released for Arthur, and that's what it comes across. It doesn't come across as a female orgy, it comes across as a male orgy. Now, the original 107-minute cut to the film had only been shown in Europe until May 97, when the film was re-released in the United States in its full form to commemorate its 30th anniversary. Now, again, Seconds was considered a box office bomb, making only $1.7 million in U.S. and Canadian markets. Now, a reviewer in Time said, director John Frankenheimer and veteran photographer James Wong Howe managed to give the most improbable doings a look of credible horror. Once Rock appears, though, the spell is shattered, and through no fault of his own. Instead of honestly exploring the ordeal of assuming a second identity, the script subsides for nearly an hour into conventional Hollywood fantasy. Seconds has its moments, and that's too bad in a way, but for its soft and flabby midsection, it might have been one of the trimmest shockers of the year. Now, Seconds has since gained an overall positive reaction, currently holding a 78% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 59 reviews. Rotten Tomatoes consensus reads, featuring dazzling, disorientating cinematography by the great James Wong Howe and a strong lead performance by Rock, Seconds is a competitively paranoid take on the legend of Faust. Now, writing in Time Out New York, Andrew Johnson wrote, Seconds is easily one of the most subversive films ever to come out of Hollywood. Even as it exposes the folly of selfishly abandoning one's commitments, it also makes a passionate case for following one's heart and rejecting conformity. This chilling portrayal of a well-meaning guy stuck in a Kafkaesque nightmare is unlike anything else Hudson did. Now, before and after this, like I said, this is the strangest movie of Hudson's career. Now, Frankenheimer was nominated for the Palme d'Or for the movie as well. Now, when it was released on home video for the first time in May 97, it was eventually had a DVD release on January 8, 2002, but later went out of print. The Criterion Collection released a newly restored version of Seconds on DVD and Blu-ray on August 13, 2013, and which can be seen actually this month on Hollywood Suite in Canada. Now, in the years since the release, Seconds has earned a reputation as a cult film. Directors Park Chan-wook and Bong Joon-ho named Seconds as one of their favorite films. Now, Seconds also has become well known for its connection to the Beach Boys' Brian Wilson. The story, which originated in the October 67 magazine article, Goodbye Surfing, Hello God, goes that when he arrived late to a theater showing of Seconds, he appeared to be greeted with the on-screen dialogue, "Come in, Mr. Wilson." He was convinced for some time that rival producer Phil Spector, one of the film's investors, by the way, was taunting him through the movie, and that it was written about his recent traumatic experience and intellectual pursuits, going so far as to note that even the beach was in it, a whole thing about the beach. And, the beach has been a motif in Brian Wilson's psychological problems over the years. He eventually later canceled the Beach Boys' forthcoming album, Smile, and the film reportedly frightened him so much that he did not visit another movie theater until 82's E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Now, is this a body swap movie? Well, yeah, in a way. But is it a science fiction movie? Well, yes and no, because how much of this is in this era of plastic surgery where people are getting new faces? But it was like this: who was the motivation behind the body transformation of this? Was it a bunch of kinky investors? Was it a bunch of people trying to control the public? But to see a disheveled and not say older looking Rock Hudson, but when the original character comes out and is Rock Hudson looks terrible, and there's a juxtaposition from him where the bandages come off like Eye of the Beholder, like the Twilight Zone, to what later happened. I really think this movie is so creepy that if some people watch this, they're basically going to be looking over the shoulder for a while. It's a mid 1960s movie, but this was released in the 70s or 80s. It would have probably done better at the award guilds and Oscars. For Rock Hudson's performance, I give 4 stars out of 5. But the movie in it, because of Anderson and Murray Hamilton and Gere and Jeff Corey, I give the supporting cast better than Rock Hudson. Overall, the movies are on 4.5 out of 5. Again, I go back to it every once in a while, but it's not the type of movie that's for everybody. It will freak the living shit out of you. And be interesting that the movie was not remade. Somebody like a Tom Cruise or Jeff Bridges or Steve Buscemi or something like that, to take it, have a well-known older actor, and then you have a well-known younger actor, like Ryan Gosling or Ryan Reynolds as a younger actor, and maybe Albert Brooks or whatever as the older one, or Ron Perlman. That refers a little bit to Drive, but you know what I'm saying. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great movie. You have a chance. If you've never seen it before, I'm telling you right now, if you're easily freaked out by a matinee icon in a science fiction movie, this is the one. This was well before Charlton Heston was a science fiction icon. Rock Hudson laid the track for Charlton Heston to be big in science fiction. It all started here with Seconds. Don't take seconds to watch Seconds. Watch it and rewatch it on a weekend where everybody's paranoid every once in a while. Watch it when you feel paranoid, maybe around tax season. Thanks for listening. If you like what we're doing here, we're a vintage movie podcast, especially for Paramount. Let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.